are in listen-only mode.
Hello, welcome to Incorporating Technology into Orientation Programming, sponsored by the American College Personnel Association's Commission for Admissions, Orientation, and First-Year Experience. A group of professionals from across a variety of institutions are here to share their expertise and lessons learned. We hope the next hour is beneficial as you continue to develop the orientation offerings at your institution. Here to present to you today are Brett Bruner from Fort Hays State University, Megan Burke from the University of Texas Arlington, Eric Glanville from Douglas College, Lane Hartman from Guidebook, Jason Herman from the University of Wisconsin Parkside, Jesse Rendell from Scabify, and I am Patty Witkowski from the University of Colorado, Colorado Springs. Our plan is to discuss the following topics related to the use of technology. First, how to use technology to prepare students to attend orientation and what to expect. Second will be approaches to the dissemination of schedule information. Next, we will discuss ways to use technology to engage students during the orientation program. As more and more campuses institute an online component of orientation, different approaches to online orientation will be discussed. Finally, ways to use technology to maintain connections beyond orientation will be covered. There will be time at the end for you to ask any of the presenters questions. So without further ado, let's jump in. I'm excited to welcome Eric Glanville from Douglas College in British Columbia to discuss ways his institution utilizes technology as students prepare to attend orientation, as well as how they utilize it during the orientation itself. Eric?
Thank you, Patty. Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. As you heard, my name is Eric Glanville. I'm the manager of the Office for New Students at Douglas College. To give you some background, Douglas is a non-residential public college just outside of Vancouver, BC. We have approximately 14,000 students over 2 campuses. We offer a variety of credentials from 1-year certificates through 4-year degrees in approximately 90 different subjects. In terms of our orientation challenge and what brought me here today, our primary challenge has always been participation. Our orientation programs are voluntary. And even though we have seen significant growth over the years, when we first started 7 years ago, we only had about 300 students a year coming. Last year we had over 1,200. So we've seen lots of growth, but at the same time, that's still only about 25% of our population that chooses to attend. So we actually surveyed the students that didn't come to orientation, and we asked them why they weren't attending. And what we found was they all highly valued orientation and wanted to participate, but essentially it came down to a scheduling conflict. Many of our students work part-time, and a lot of our students are international students, and many of them weren't even in Canada at the day that the orientation was being held. So they asked us, if possible, to develop an online orientation as an alternative. So we started to look for online orientation tools that we could use to achieve our primary goals, which were to distribute key information to the students, to build a sense of community and social connection, and also to provide an opportunity for them to ask questions and get quick answers. And that's what led us to one of our solutions, which was Uversity. For those of you who don't know, Uversity is a Facebook app that exists within the Facebook platform. It was developed by a company in San Francisco. What it does is essentially builds a private community within Facebook where students can go in and create a personal profile just for themselves. The app then takes the information that the students put into their personal profile, including their interests, their background, their affiliation, their program, and it blends all of that information together and creates a set of communities of commonality. So it essentially introduces students to other students with things in common, similar to what we do at our live events. It also creates a main wall where students can post any questions or comments that they have, and other peer students or peer mentors, staff, and faculty can interact and answer those questions. After three years of using this product, we've had some pretty good results. In our best year, we saw over 5,500 posts come into the environment, over 1,900 friends made, and over 670 questions answered. It's interesting because usage seems to go up during times of relative stress, and if there are any problems with service delivery, we typically hear about those first through the app. So in general, some of the benefits that we run into in using an app like this for online orientation, first of all, it provides us with a live portal into the collective consciousness of the students. We really get to see what's on their mind, what's their concern, what are they excited about in real time over the course of the summer. Secondly, it seems to encourage authentic communication, much more so than what we have seen in the past with our standalone Facebook pages for the institution. A lot of the time, I think students, when they see a Facebook page, they're not sure who exactly is going to be responding to any question that they put forward, whereas in this environment, they can see other students and their profiles, they can see the student leaders, and they understand that they're surrounded by students that support them and are just like them in the environment, so it tends to bring out authentic communication. And finally, it actually drives participation in our live events. A lot of times folks are concerned that an online orientation will detract participation in live events. What we actually found was registration for our live events went up, and students who interacted through Uversity were 3 to 4 times more likely to register for a live orientation. So lots of great benefits that we've seen over the years. Of course, there are also challenges. Some of it has to do with privacy. The way Uversity typically works is they'll take your entire incoming student class and they'll contact them directly, but that requires that you send contact information to them, and for various privacy reasons, we weren't able to work that way. So we came up with our own solution in terms of marketing it. Also, you have to find volunteer support, students to monitor the environment, and there's a cost, there's a licensing fee that we pay every year. Generally, it's been a good experience for us. I actually did a full hour-long webinar just for Uversity. If you'd like more information, you can actually hear it on their website, or you can contact me for more info. But that's a quick snapshot of our experience with one tool that we've used for our online orientation. At this point, I'll return things back to Patty.
Thank you, Eric. And it looks like we also have a few just screenshots that can show a little bit more about what the Uversity looks like and what it offers. So I'll just kind of go through those, see some questions asked and how they're answered, and some of the concerns that students are coming up with on their app or on their site. Thank you, Eric. Lane Hartman from Guidebook is now here to share the ins and outs of how to use technology to enhance students' and guests' experience while on campus navigating their orientation experience. Welcome, Lane.
Hello, everyone. Good morning or afternoon out there, wherever you may be. So my name is Lane Hartman. I work with a company called Guidebook, and we make mobile apps and guides for schools, large companies, other events. We actually started as an event app, and then we had a aha moment and said, hey, we'll probably work excellent for schools, and we started this whole department, the EDU department, to work with universities. And I'm an account manager for them. I work exclusively with universities who have bought mobile apps for us, and I help them go mobile and help them leverage that technology to as great a benefit as possible. So I'm here to talk about using your mobile apps or getting mobile apps for orientation season. And I'm sure you all are aware, but for your orientation, the logistics of that are it's pretty maddening if anything changes and there's so much information to store. So everything is in motion, and you can leverage mobile technology to really help have all that information with all of your students and parents and whoever else may be interested at all times. And I'm going to go through some of the benefits that you can have with a mobile app. So you have always up-to-date information. So with a mobile app, any last-minute changes to your orientation schedule doesn't need to give you a headache. You can simply log on to whatever portal you have to manage your content and change that information, push out changes in real time, and alert everyone that that is something that has changed. No need to reprint or make complicated shout-outs to whomever may be on hand at the time. And you don't really need to bring everyone together in any way that is not, really easy and convenient for you. So anything that you need to change, you can get that out right away to everyone in real time. You can even give a campus tour to everyone on campus. And there's probably not enough staff to have one person for every attendee. But with a mobile app, it doesn't really matter. You can upload campus maps or link to Google Maps and then give them a walking tour, link to whatever sessions may be happening in buildings, or link to whatever information you want to convey about a certain area on campus. So everyone can essentially have their own private tour guide with an app. Social media integration. This is how you bring everyone together and see what everybody is up to. So you should probably find a vendor that supports your social media profile. You can have your students connect with you and pump up your orientation via Twitter and Facebook within the app itself. Set your own hashtag and have it automatically tag their responses when made within the app. So while everyone's at orientation, this little cheesy, your app can be their window to the world essentially. So they're already going to be on their phones and they're already going to be logging into Instagram, logging into Facebook, Twitter, tweeting out. So you might as well just have them do that from their app, and that can give you a little more exposure too. And you can even have personalized schedules. So your students probably may not need to or even physically be able to attend every single session on every single day, because some of them might, run at the same time. So why not just let them have their own schedule that they can update and make personal. And so they can actually take things from the main schedule and then just put it on their own, so that way they can stay on top of everything and not let the big things slide. And then you can even host photo albums and really just other ways other than social media within the app to get everyone together. So you can host photo contests and see what your students are up to and just spread the love as far as that goes. It's kind of like an Instagram feed for your whole orientation. So you should probably just leverage that as a tool to promote engagement and foster community. You can have someone on staff keep an eye out, or even a student volunteer, flag any photos that you might not want shared. But otherwise, it's a good place where students and staff can have a good time, show how much fun orientation can be. It's an exciting time. Everyone's going to want to share that, and they're going to anyway, so you might as well host a place for them to store all their photos. You can make an announcement and send push notifications to all participants if you want, if you have mobile technology for your orientation. You can send messages to a central place for all participants, have something to say or want to make a special announcement. You probably will, so you might as well have an inbox or send push notifications for any emergencies or last-minute changes in location for a session. For academic and departmental information, you can also host that on an app, and it's a really good way to get your student engaged with their career as quickly and efficiently as possible. I know when I started college, it was really tough to find where to go and what information I needed for graduation, to get set up with my academic department, to find advisors, to find what classes I should be in. And if you host this information on your app, they're going to have it right in their pocket, and it's going to make the process much simpler and much less of a headache on those students for going into this really overwhelming situation that can be orientation. And then it's also a great way to have feedback and to host that in one central location. So you're going to have to analyze your event, determine what was a success and what was a failure, and you want to establish that institutional memory to ensure that that event will not only succeed but also improve in years to come. And mobile technology is a great way to get this feedback form to all of your students and actually have them take it with them if they might not want to fill it out right on the spot. And it'll come in as long as you keep promoting it. So it's a great way to get all that feedback in one place, easily distribute it, collect it, and analyze that. So pretty much from start to finish, a mobile app can be there for your orientation. It's going to evolve as your plans do so, and if you have to put in some time to use it right, it can be an excellent tool to get your students involved and help you stay on top of the event from start to finish. And that would be it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Lane. And I know that working with using a scavenger hunt, using Guidebook, that they'll be able to talk with you. The company would be happy to talk with you if you're interested. So feel free to get in touch with them and with Lane. There are a variety of ways to engage students and guests during orientations. While they may take up time to set up on the back end, they can provide a more engaging experience for students. Creating a hashtag for your events is one approach. Having students tweet about their experience, earn prizes for posting their photo next to the mascot or at your campus's entrance sign are just a few ways to engage students outside of the sessions and begin connecting them in the social media world with your institution. So I encourage you to think of creative ways that you can utilize Instagram and Twitter during your sessions as well as before and after orientation. And now I'd also like to welcome Megan from the University of Texas Arlington to share how they utilize text-based polling in their orientations. Take it away, Megan.
Thank you very much, Patty. I know for our orientation sessions, a lot of the sessions that we feel are most important for students are the ones that are hard to make exciting, that are the ones that are hard to find ways to keep them engaged. So using text-based polling has been a way for us to really make the students use the technology that they're already using anyway. We know that they're already texting during the presentations, and so actually using it for a benefit instead of telling everybody to just put their phones away. We've used Poll Everywhere, but I know that there's a lot of other options out there depending on what you would like to do. And it works very easily. You can mesh it right in with all of your presentations. You just have to download a software onto the computer that you're using and then decide what type of questions you want, what kind of polling do you want to do. The session that we use mostly is for our academic preparedness presentation, so finding out how much studying did the students do in high school? What type of school are they from? Is it a large school or a small school? It's really cool to be able to tailor the presentation to the audience that we have right there, that we know that all of our students are coming from all over Texas for us. Most of our students are from in-state, but a lot of the schools, high schools in Texas, are huge. And then we have some students that are being homeschooled, and obviously those are two different experiences. So being able to see right away, right there, the students will text an answer to whatever number that you give them, and you are able to see right on the screen that out of the 250 people that are sitting in the room right there, how many of them went to a large school, how many of them went to a medium school or went to a small school or homeschooled, and you're able to tailor that experience to them, as well as use all of that information at the end of the summer. At the end of each session, we can go through and write down all of these numbers, and then we'll actually be able to use this information later. How many of them said that they were planning on working during this school year, and then how many of them end up actually do through other surveys that we're doing, being able to actually set realistic expectations for their college career. If they weren't studying in high school, what do we need to tell them about how to study in college? Or being able to compare themselves to each other. If they think that they're the only person that's being homeschooled, yet there was 10 other people on the screen that said that they were homeschooled, that's really cool to be able to connect with those students. So it's really nice to be able to use the technology that they're already using to actually be able to incorporate that into the presentation and tailor those presentations to their information that they need.
Thank you so much. Jessie from Scavify will now discuss opportunities to incorporate scavenger hunts into your orientation experience. Thank you for being here, Jessie.
Great. Thank you so much for having me. We really appreciate the opportunity to give some information to you guys today. As Lane alluded to when he talked a little bit about Guidebook and other apps, mobile technologies can be quite useful when it comes to increasing engagement for your orientation and other university programs. For Scavify in particular, we focus on creating interactive scavenger hunts that allow you to create mobile adventures for your students to explore your campuses in connection with your orientation and other programs. We have an app and online platform that has various customizable features that facilitate interactive experiences of all shapes and sizes. As you can see on your screen, we have a variety of features that allow you to increase engagement and interaction with students during your programs. And how we do it essentially is base everything around the idea of students completing challenges, getting points, and earning rewards. We have different ways for them to do that, to create these interactive experiences. We use photo tasks, GPS check-ins, trivia question-answer-based tasks, or QR code scanning. All these different methods of task completion have the opportunity to create individual moments of engagement all throughout your campus. We also use different technologies to allow us to create interactive experiences between the students as they participate in the programs. And you can see here the interactive leaderboard and photo stream are just two examples. Students can see points that they are scoring, where they rank on the leaderboard, and what other students are scoring as they participate in the game. They can also see a photo stream that shows all of the photos that students are uploading in the course of participating in that particular hunt. Again, like Lane alluded to, social media integration is obviously something that you're going to want, and I think most apps in this space will give you some level of social media integration. Our app does allow students to share the completed tasks via social media, and it's really built in and integrated like many other apps, so it's very easy. One thing that we do and other apps may offer is the opportunity to custom brand your experience. And what I mean by that is essentially once a student joins into the hunt that you've created, it's outfitted with your logos and branding, featured images, and clickable banners that allow you to easily link your hunt to any URLs of your choice. Sometimes that can be to a campus map. Sometimes that can be to your general information page. But there are a lot of options there to really give them the feeling that they're participating in a really unique, personalized experience. And another feature that some apps offer is the ability to use a suite of online tools that allow you as the organizer to keep track of what's going on, see what's happening, have access to the content that's being generated during the course of your program, and make updates as to the individual hunts that you have created. Just moving along to the next page there. So overall, though, technology in many cases, and certainly in our case, allows you to achieve strategic objectives, all while using a fun game. Through the process of gamifying an experience that might not otherwise be competitive or have elements of interaction, you actually see that interest levels and participation can increase greatly. And so you may have a passive tour or some sort of exploratory event. By adding an interactive component to it, by having interactive tasks and challenges where students can compete with other students and get points, we see that there's a real interest in participation, and the enjoyment level and the favorable image of the university as a whole tends to go up. Additionally, it's not really all just about having fun. Because of the nature of the tasks that we allow people to use, whether it's questions and answers or GPS check-ins, there are elements of real learning that can be built into these scavenger hunts. And so while certain tasks may be more about kind of your university culture and creativity, there may be other tasks that inform them as to certain things like safety procedures or the locations of different things that they should know. So there's a way to really achieve a fun, engaging experience, but there's also an opportunity to educate at the same time. And the great thing is that the technology, generally speaking, with our application, I'm sure many others, really makes it easy for you to deploy and manage programs that can be very meaningful and can achieve outcomes for you. Things like a scavenger hunt or something along that line that may have taken hours of logistics and planning and communication 5-10 years ago can now be done very easily. And certainly with our technology, you have everything at your fingertips and have the ability to create and launch customized interactive experiences in just minutes. It's very amazing. And from that same perspective, students are able to easily access these things, and they don't need tons of information. In our case, students merely have to download the application, create an account, search for your university's hunt, and they can begin playing. And with a user interface that's very seamless and easy to use, it's very accessible and also infinitely scalable. That's the great thing about the technology too. We can accommodate thousands of people at one time, and so technology gives you the ability to really cover a lot of ground in ways that you may not have been able to in the past. And similarly, one of the things I hit earlier, which is having the ability to really participate in that experience from the organizer's perspective. And in our case, that's by using the web admin page that we create for you so that you can literally be sitting at your desk, logged in on your computer and watching as your students create content and go through this experience. It gives you the ability to be pulling content to like photos, etc., to be posting on your social media. Gives you the ability to see who's doing what, how many students have completed how many tasks, gives you the ability to decide which kind of rewards you want to give them, etc., etc. So there are a lot of, certainly with our technology, and I'm sure there are others, there are a lot of ways that you can really create customized experiences, and you can achieve the outcomes that you're looking to achieve, and you can do it in a way that really hits home with kids, really gets them going, and it's a really valuable tool. So I know that there are a lot of different things out there. We really love being able to help with these orientation programs, and if anyone has any more questions for me at any point, feel free to reach out.
Thank you so much, Jesse. Now we will discuss a few options for implementing an online orientation program. Jason will discuss his campus's use of D2L, Desire to Learn. I will cover the use of Visual Zen, and Eric will discuss the homegrown option. Thank you to Jason from University of Wisconsin Parkside for being here today.
Thank you, Patty, and hello, everybody. Something we have looked into as far as finding different ways to host an online orientation is to look at something that we currently use for our hybrid and online offerings, which is Desire to Learn or D2L. Students are actually given access to create their NetID and password during the admissions process, which is important to us because we have a large number of both commuter as well as on-campus living, but it's pretty much a 2/3 to 1/3 commuter versus residential living students. So we look at different ways to come up with the ability to get the information to these students without really tasking their time. And so we start this process by knowing that they have this access to D2L out front as long as we import the information from our database once they register. And so what we do and what we've created is we have this tutorial that we're constantly tweaking and looking at. So you can do different things with video, different things with PowerPoint and or nonlinear PowerPoints or any of those different types of things that can get the information out to the students. Because D2L can be somewhat confusing. You do need to know how to use it to get the most out of the program itself. So we built this tutorial and we're constantly looking at ways to tweak that so that we make sure we give students the proper information so they can use the portal properly. From there, we really go into the modular setup, and we want this to be set up to be asynchronous so that it can be, by a certain time, do this much information is something that we're currently looking at. And so we use different modules through the content tab to get the proper information out to students that need the information going forward. Check for understanding and things like that, you can do built-in quizzes right in D2L specifically. And then we also look at different ways you can use the discussion tabs and discussion posts, whether it's continuous threads to get back to students with information or if other students can help answer questions that they've already figured out. There are a number of different ways you can set up your discussion areas. And so we've looked at a number of different pieces to how we can utilize this one portal specifically to get the information we delivered there. And so one thing we do continue to ask ourselves is what we're delivering in person versus what we need to deliver online. What's similar, what's different, and how do you make those two things work together? And so it's something that's constantly being tweaked. We also need look at making sure we have complete buy-in from campus and those types of things, because if you're doing an online orientation, that means you're not necessarily getting them there, even though not all of our programs are offered in an online and or hybrid offerings. So this is just one tool, and instead of going out creating a website, going out and creating different things, we do have this portal we can use in Desire to Learn. Thank you, and if you have any other questions, please let me know.
Thank you so much. I personally implemented the use of Visual Zen for an online orientation last year and felt that the online module and implementation process was seamless. I worked closely with our instructional technologists on campus to record the video components, and the support and ease of uploading the content to the Visual Zen system was very efficient. In order to utilize the Visual Zen online orientation module, you must be using the Visual Zen registration system. So if you're not already doing that, you would have to consider that as well. So certainly there's a cost associated. It is considered an addition, and so the cost of both the implementation of Visual Zen for a registration system as well as for the online orientation would depend on your campus's population. So that would just be something to consider. The students would go through, they complete the modules. It shows up in kind of a box format for them, very easy for them to follow. And the modules can either be text-based or video. And then you also have the ability to build in questions to assess student learning. So you can do that at the end of all of the modules, or you can do it throughout after each of the modules, so for students to answer questions. And so it's a great way, like I said, very easy to implement, and definitely something that in working with orientation, something to be considered. Eric will now share how a homegrown system has worked on his campus.
Thank you, Patty. Well, I mean, the reality is that there are various reasons why a school might decide to pursue a homegrown solution of some kind. In our case, when we looked around, we really didn't find anything on the market that was able to fulfill all of the needs or our entire vision for online orientation. So we started to look at, well, what could we do from a homegrown standpoint? And really there are two types of options in this category. You can either build something onto your institution's existing website, or you can build an entirely new orientation program from scratch. In terms of building on your existing website, the advantage there obviously is that the architecture is already in place. You have IT experts on your campus who can guide you through adding new content into that medium, and your students are already relatively familiar with that environment when they arrive. The disadvantage, of course, is that most school sites are really only set up for delivering things like text, photo, and video content, which means there's fairly limited functionality in terms of what you can do with that platform. In our case, we decided to use the platform primarily to push out key information, so we built a multi-stage site focusing on some of the key issues that students have at different times in their matriculation into first year. So part of it's dedicated to 3 months out, 1 month out, and then the last week before they start on campus. And we have a screen cap to show more or less how all of that is built and presented on our existing Douglas College website. So that's one option that we went through. If you do decide to build on an existing college site, I'd really encourage you guys to make sure that you've got Google Analytics built into the back end so you can monitor how different aspects of your site are going over with your incoming student population and tailor the material to their needs. The second option, of course, is to build something new from scratch, something that doesn't exist before. The main advantage here is that it's kind of like playing with magic Lego. You can make anything you can possibly imagine, and then it comes to life when it's built and people can actually use it. So it's actually a really fun and fascinating process to go through. The disadvantage, of course, being that this process does require time, money, and a certain amount of expertise to get off the ground, which you may or may not have a great deal of as a resource at your college. In my case, after pitching the idea, I discovered that the college really didn't have the resources to make something like this happen. But I was so committed to the vision and to the opportunity that I think it held for students that I decided to go ahead and build it privately on the side. If you're interested, the process looked kind of like this. I ended up going out and finding some recent grads from a local coding school and getting a contract with them to work together for about a 4-month period to design and develop a brand new orientation platform from scratch. It cost roughly around $4,500 for us to go through that process. We demoed it for the first time in a beta version in August of this year with our incoming students. We learned a great deal from that experience, so we went into a second round of development that we're in the middle of right now, working for a 4-month period, hopefully with something that we can test sometime in December for students starting in January. It's actually been kind of like having a part-time job. It does require a lot of time, but it's also one of the most fun and interesting projects I've been involved in because it's kind of a hyper-creative state to live in. Rather than the typical administrative wheels that we turn on campus, it's an opportunity to really get your creative juices flowing and to see how students use what you've created in the end. In terms of the actual project that we put together, the Launchpad site, it's essentially a series of online experiences. So things like a survival guide, social houses based on the program they're going into, question forums where they can ask questions and get answers, an interactive checklist, all kinds of ways that we're giving students the key information that they need to succeed, as well as building a sense of social connection and community. And the whole thing is wrapped in a game format where students get to earn points and badges and prizes for their positive activity within the environment. It's still in development at this point, and we're actually looking for additional partner schools to test the beta version for free in the coming year so that we can learn and continue to enhance it and hopefully make it better. So if anyone out there is interested in trying it with their students, please feel free to reach out and contact me. I'd love to talk to you about how it might work with your community. And with that, I'll return things back to Patty.
Thank you very much, Eric. Next, we'll be discussing how to use technology to maintain connections with students and family members beyond the orientation experience. This is particularly necessary for students who attend a late spring, early summer orientation that can be more than 3 months before they begin fall classes. I'd like to welcome back Megan and also thank Brett Bruner from Fort Hays State University for being here to share about how they maintain connections beyond orientation through technology.
All right, so here at UT Arlington, all of our freshman orientation sessions are 2-day sessions, and we start at the beginning of June and go all the way through until the week before classes start in August. So obviously the students that are coming in June have a while before they will be coming back to campus. And one of the ways that we stay connected with them is through a newsletter that we put together. We call our newsletter Encore, and it's a really easy way to disseminate information to students. Obviously, it keeps the connection with the students, with the campus, depending on the information that you put in there. A lot of our information is information that has already been given to them at orientation, but we also put some new information in there that they might not have heard because they didn't attend that specific session, or just reminders about financial dates or dates for their housing requirements or anything like that that they may have forgotten. We all know that there is a lot of information at orientation that the students are supposed to absorb, and sometimes they just don't get it all. And so this is a great way to be able to give them either new information or just reiterate all of the stuff that we have been telling them for through the whole time that they're here on campus. The first time that we did our newsletter, we created a 12 newsletter series and sent it out to each group that attended orientation. So the group that attended orientation in the first week in June got 12 newsletters all the way throughout the summer into August, and everybody that attended orientation at the end of July also got those same 12 newsletters. Obviously, that means that the last group got newsletters all the way into October, which was a little weird, and it was a lot of work. And our interns that we had during the summer that created all of this left us, and then we ended up having to kind of fill in and continue doing that. So we realized that that wasn't the best plan. So we group all of our students that attend the sessions by groups. So we only have 4 groups that we're sending out newsletters to, and we decide which newsletters are going to be have the most important information and what needs to be sent out to which group. So we actually have a set of about 6 or 7 newsletters. The first group, so people that attend our sessions 1, 2, and 3, they get all 6. Because there's obviously more time that they are going to be away from campus, and so reminding them about staying connected with their orientation leader and getting on their Facebook group for their orientation group and things like that that they may not forget once they get into July. Whereas the students that come to our later sessions at the end of July, beginning of August, they only get the ones that have the most important information. So they get the ones that have campus safety information, or the ones about the financial deadlines, things about important dates, when to start school, when to meet with your advisor. So while those do contain some social information, information about the orientation leaders, information about Welcome Week and the activities fair, it's more super important information since their connection is not as important since they will be coming back much earlier than those students back in July, or that attended in June.
Thank you, Megan. And now Brett?
Yes. So at Fort Hays State University, we are located in western Kansas. Our traditional summer orientation program, if you will, is a little unique in the fact that it's slightly different compared to what Megan was discussing at UT Arlington. At Fort Hays, we begin our orientation programs in mid-April, and by the first week of June, we're actually completed with summer orientation. So a student could step foot on campus on April 15th for his or her orientation day, and then not necessarily reconnect with campus until August 15th on move-in day. So we are very intentional to introduce students to our social media uses during our orientation and pre-enrollment days, that both our undergraduate student orientation staff, our first-year experience professional staff members, and our campus partners and faculty moderators will use throughout their orientation day to respond to new student or parent or family questions using our hashtag. Our hashtag this past summer was hashtag I'm a Tiger, and we see our students, our parents, parents are engaging in Twitter and Facebook asking those questions, and our faculty members. One of our most popular faculty members on Twitter, at Doc Politics, who's a political science faculty member, moderates our panel, our student and parent panel, and he continues to answer questions beyond that day from a faculty perspective as well as throughout the summer. We encourage our students, our new students, to keep this dialogue moving forward beyond that day, asking those questions throughout the summer to keep them engaged and make sure that that summer melt doesn't happen. We also use this forum to create community and connections between our new students and the institutions. My area is not just an Office of Orientation, we're an Office of First Year Experience and Retention. And one of our core focus areas is that idea of connection. We want students to develop some sort of a connection to someone, to something, or to the institution itself. In looking at ways we can engage our students after they leave orientation, we look to where our students are at. And we learn this message right up front, that don't try to reinvent the wheel and go somewhere where our students aren't at. Our students are on Facebook. And so we decided, how can we utilize this to reach out to some at-risk student populations? For an example, at Fort Hays State University, we continue to see increasing enrollments in our out-of-state students, specifically those in eastern Colorado and in western Nebraska. However, as we see increasing new student populations, our first to second year retention rates for these two populations continues to decline pretty rapidly. In order to combat this, a group of our undergraduate student staff this past year made the goal that they wanted to decrease summer melt from their home states and wanted an avenue and a forum for our new incoming out-of-state students to build connections to each other. Thus, this homegrown, what they dubbed Tigers in a New Territory group, responded really with outstanding results. Students started making connections in their surrounding states, including our lone student who came from the state of Alaska. We saw some pre-move-in day meetups occurring organically in places that our official first-year experience summer send-off events weren't able to take place due to various reasons out of our control. And we saw that these new students and their parents and families were creating these send-off events happening organically. We see connections being made for students to meet up during Labor Day. Labor Day weekend is a tough weekend for us on our campus. It's the second weekend after move-in. Majority of our local students who are within 2 to 3 hours head home, leaving most of our out-of-state students looking for things to do on campus rather than traveling 6 to 7 hours home. And so this avenue provided those students to make connections with each other. Through the use of College Week Live, which is a vendor that's used primarily by our Office of International Student Services and Strategic Partnerships, they use College Week Live for pre-departure, pre-arrival, and recruitment webinars for our international students, particularly in China. We had an opportunity to latch on and try out this in terms of another way to engage with our out-of-state student population, specifically hosting an interactive hangout session for new students coming from the state of Colorado. Once again, a high-risk retention market for our first-year students. We had such great success, and that's actually that middle picture that you'll see on your screen there, such great success and resounding response rate from our new students that we look to expand that into our new student connections and transition program this summer to look at other specific student populations. A first generation student hangout space, a small town Tigers group for all of our students who are coming from very rural areas, as well as hangout spaces for those students who might be interested in a specific topic. Maybe that's fraternity and sorority recruitment, what to expect on move-in day. Beyond using student usage of connections, resources may be readily available for you on your campus to engage with our parents and families of our new students. We recognize that orientation is not just a process at Fort Hays State for our students, but also our parents and family members, and we wanted to leverage technology to support them throughout their students' transition process. So we came up with this idea that we wanted to launch a family webinar series, starting in the summer, but encouraging year-round and providing those timely sharing of information and topics that were pertinent to the students, but also to the parents as well. We began to look at options and soon realized that our learning management system, Blackboard, provided a feature that hadn't been used, and actually when we reached out to our instructional technologists, they were just waiting for someone to try it out. So utilizing the Collaborate feature within Blackboard, we were able to launch our first family webinar series this past summer. We kicked it off in late July, and the topic was focused on residential living, specifically what to expect on move-in day. Families were able to participate live in that evening's webinar, ask questions, hear from our staff, from our partners in residential life, as well as we upload the video to YouTube, as well as our family engagement and our family association websites. We've then expanded this program to be a year-round series focusing on those timely topics. So in the month of September, partnering with our Center for Student Involvement on the topic of student involvement and engagement. In November, we just hosted our November webinar series for families with our counseling center about what to expect when your new student arrives home for their first extended break. In the spring, partnering with our career services office on how parents and families can be a career coach for their students. And lastly, the latter part of the spring semester with our financial assistance office, focusing on financial literacy as your new student moves into their second year. And finally, the whole idea of social media campaigns can engage your students not only throughout their first year, but throughout the entire institution. At Fort Hays State University, we embrace the idea of innovation and we embrace the idea of technology. And within our Division of Student Affairs, we have a committee that's called our Division of Student Affairs Notions in Motion Innovation Think Tank, and that is quite a long title of a committee. It's a group of individuals who sits around and talk about how can we utilize technology to enhance student learning and the student experience. Partnering with our Division Social Media Task Force, we designed and have launched the hashtag #U@FHSU campaign. The purpose of this campaign is to engage new students to capture how they see their place at the institution, or how do they find the hashtag #U@FHSU, share that through social media throughout the school year. We ask students to, for a period of 21 consecutive days, to create that positive habit that will hopefully lead to successful transition and retention to that second year, post where they're finding or how they're finding the hashtag #U@FHSU. We've just launched this campaign 2 days ago, and through the use of Storify, we've created a website at fhsu.edu/U@FHSU. We're able to pull in all of the social media posts through Instagram and Twitter throughout the year onto the fhsu.edu/U@FHSU page. Patty, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you so much. It's so exciting to hear all the wonderful things happening across the country and great ideas. So thank you all so much for sharing your experiences. I'd like to now open it up to questions from our audience. There's a chat box in where you would be able to type any questions you might have. It looks like our first one is in. The first question comes as, what's one of the greatest mistakes you've made in the implementation of using technology in orientation? Anyone have an answer out there from our panelists?
This is where I will go. I think one of the mistakes is trying to go somewhere where your student population might not be. So I think it's understanding what forms of technology that your students are using and trying to meet them where they're at, rather than trying to create a different space, an additional space for them to go to. We've tried that here. Previously, we've used different technology resources for students and really expected them to drive them to a different site to engage specifically throughout that summer melt process. And it wasn't where our students were going, and we saw continued decreases in students who were utilizing it.
I think also is not using the resources that you have. I use Twitter only during the summer for orientation and only when I have to, because that's just not something that I am good at, and it's not something that I use in my life. But my students use it all the time. So we used our returning orientation leaders and the interns that we hired and put them in charge of that and had them create the plans and create all of this stuff, obviously with our guidance, but letting them use the technology that they want to use anyway, and so I can concentrate on other things that need to be done that they obviously can't do.
For me, with implementing the Visual Zen online orientation, I think it's important to estimate the amount of time that it's going to take to get things produced and developed, especially when working campus-wide with other folks who have other priorities beyond developing your online orientation program. And so making sure that you provide enough time to get things implemented correctly. The piece with some of the modules and utilizing outside companies, they have certain timelines. And so just knowing what the timelines are and making sure you're getting in touch with them early is the best, I think is the best way, just because you're able then to plan accordingly and make sure that your first rollout is the best it can be. Another question we have is, feel free, sorry.
Sorry, I was just going to say, in my case, I think one of the things that we learned is that, especially if you are bringing in a new technology or a new approach for the first time, to try to keep that process as lean as possible. And what I mean by that is to try to test it out with some students before you've invested a lot of time and energy into that platform, to see what sort of response you get, how they use the platform. They might use it, but in a way that's different from what you expect. And it's better to learn that early on in your development process and then modify your approach rather than spending months of time and lots of money perhaps on a tool or on an approach that doesn't quite fit for what they're looking for. So definitely try to test it as you go along so that by the time you roll it out to the entire community, you're pretty sure that it works well for what the students need.
Great advice. Thank you, Eric. The last question for the panelists that we're going to be able to have time for today is, what are your next steps? What will you be hoping to bring in related to technology into your orientation programming over the next 2 to 3 years? I know we just heard from Brett, who shared something they just rolled out 2 days ago. So there's certainly things in your minds that are on your campuses that you're thinking about and talking about. So will you share what some of those might be?
This is Megan at UT Arlington, and I know one of the things that we are going to concentrate on for this next year is just increasing our use of Guidebook. That we have an app that we're using, and we have a variety of different orientation programs, our freshman program, our transfer program, international, as well as veterans. And right now we're only using Guidebook for 2 of those, so deciding if that's right for what we're going to be using for our other programs. And then we've only touched the surface in what Guidebook offers, and so really making sure that everything that they offer is what we're actually using. And then we're also going to be changing up our online orientation program, so I'm really excited to see what that's going to hold in the future.
Thank you.
I think for us here at University of Wisconsin-Parkside, it's finding different ways to keep students engaged after they participate in the orientation, whether it's leaving the course up, which is D2L, it's basically built like a course, and allowing students to continue to post, or it's going to be different touch points through social media, different ways to keep these students engaged, so that way when they do get to campus, if they're not taking an online form, they have a bit of a community built piece to what we've accomplished. And the other thing I know is we're looking at different ways to approach our international students and get them as much information before they get here as possible, because we have a late arriving group in general for international, so it's just going to be finding different ways to get those students the support and the information they need before they actually arrive in the States.
Thank you.
At Fort Hays State University, I would say we are continuing to look at, specifically with our virtual learners who will never set foot on our campus, how are we continuing to build those connections specifically to their peers? We've heard that from our virtual students that they go through our online orientation, they may feel connected to the institution, but how do we build those connections to those peers?
Wonderful. Thank you all again for attending.
Eric at Douglas College. I think.
Go ahead, Eric.
Sorry, I was just going to say, Patty, that for us, there's 2 plans. One is to continue to focus on special needs groups within the population, whether that's international or mature students, and develop aspects to online orientation that cater specifically to their situation and their needs. And the second half is to look at how we can leverage this and dovetail it into the broader co-curricular record and long-term student engagement plans that we have for the population throughout their time in our programs, and not just within the first month or the first semester of their activity here.
Thank you. It must be the distance that's causing the delay between here and Canada. Thank you again all for attending. All of our presenters' contact information is here, and a copy of this presentation will be available on ACPA's Commission for Admissions, Orientation, and First Year Experience website. We will be hosting another webinar next Thursday, December 11th at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, discussing options that we mentioned a little bit here related to orientation registration and attendee management systems, such as Visual Zen, Slate, Oracle PeopleSoft, Banner, and other homegrown systems. So to register, please visit the ACPA Commission for Admissions, Orientation, and First Year Experience website, as you did to register for this one today. Thank you so much, and have a great day.